Okay, everybody, I thought I would finally get around to doing a video with Little Miss, catch you guys up on everything that's going on. I know I've been a little bit busy with other things and haven't really had everybody sort of follow in on what she's up to with me. She's been making absolutely fantastic progress. You guys are going to be hopefully interested in what I have been up to. She has always been an absolute sweetie. She's been very good at being able to connect up and be a friend and accept a friendship, I guess we could call it. And just a good little listener and learner, which has been just an absolute joy to work with her for. I'm just going to put her halter on a little bit more. Generally, when I catch horses, I just sort of put it on loose, something quick. It's not always a great idea, but most of the time it works out well and I don't really have a problem with it. But we're going to do a little bit of work, so I'm just going to have this tied on normal, which isn't, it's not overly tight. We've still got some, some leeway. We're not trying to choke them out or nothing like that. We just don't want it to flop around an awful lot or have the ability to kind of come off the head or off the nose. Sometimes, can I borrow with you? Sometimes when it's a little bit loose and this will kind of come down and, if you have something sideways happen, then it'll come off their nose. So anyways, so what has she been up to? She has been up to all kinds of acclimation to stuff, all kinds of walking around and groundwork and things. And so I thought I would demonstrate a little bit. It's a little windy today, so we'll see if anything falls out of the trees and causes us any trouble. But for the most part, I think we're going to be okay. She has been shown to me to be of the type of horse that sort of thinks things through a little bit more than just plain reacts, even though there are plenty of ways to freak her out and bother her overall. She's a little bit better with that padding. I know everybody saw the padding video, but I will show you what she exhibits when she's padded, because I've done it a couple times just to see, and she's not a big fan. And there's a reason for it. So I'll show you here. I'll pat, pat, pat. Okay. And that is light. So I have worked on it a little bit to be able to pat, 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 touch, touch, touch. But in general, she's still not, I don't think any horse really kind of gets too good with it. So we try not to do that kind of thing a lot. But that's one of the things that we saw in that video that I really wanted to make sure that she didn't freak out, because some horses, when they come, well, actually, I'd say probably all of them that sort of come feral. When you go to bump, 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 pat, 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 pat kind of thing, they will go sideways. And it's really undesirable. So anyways, what have we been up to? We have been up to, of course, basic draw and leading. She comes just fine. If I ask her to come over, she can be touched in all kinds of places. Obviously, her feet have been trimmed. I think I've done it at least 6-7 times now. I haven't even been keeping count because it's just, it's fine. Without any issues really, I can come around and touch. And like normal horses, they tend to kind of have a preference on where they want to be touched, so she might wander a little bit, but quickly draws back. So we don't have any real issues there. If I ask her to stay and stick around with me, she will, and I'll continue to sort of press and hold and touch and make sure that we don't end off on anything where she's trying to escape or do anything that's going to be dangerous because she's trying to escape, like kick. We don't want a kicking horse. So with that, there's been a lot of groundwork, but now that she's sort of evolved past all the initial stages, I think it's important that I show that she can have a saddle put on, because all the work that I do with her now is with a saddle on, whether we use it or not. So let's get set up for that and saddle her up. Okay, so all I've done is simply move the camera a little bit so we can see that we've got a saddle up here ready to go. This is a very basic saddle. I get a lot of questions about saddles. This one is an old saddle that I've had for quite some time. It is a treeless saddle, and it's got supports on each side despite being treeless, and I've got a decent pad that's going to go underneath it. It's light, it's easy. If it falls off, I never really worry about it because it's kind of old, and as such, it's perfect. It's very, very comfortable. In fact, I find treat the saddles to be fantastic. So when I think about saddling though, so I think I have brought you guys through, if you haven't seen the videos, I brought you through what I think about when I go to saddle a horse. There's a lot of concern that I try to take out of them when I'm putting stuff on their back, although a little miss here handled being saddled just fine. So I don't need her to sniff and do all kinds of things. I've already brushed her from before. I can double check. I can just have a hand kind of come over and make sure that I don't feel any sand or gravel or anything. She hasn't had a lie down since I've last messed with her, and I am covered in hair. So let's just move you guys just a smidge this way, and I'm gonna get on with putting my stuff on. Now, I'll talk through this a little bit just in case anybody actually cares, but when I'm putting on a pad, and as you can see, she had this on last, I really wanna make sure that it's kind of clean, just in case at any point somebody, or myself obviously as well, has dropped it on the ground and we have any sand. Can you come here please and get back into frame? It's very important. Come here. Good girl. It's a little lazy. Okay, so we want to make sure that there's nothing kind of itchy in here or pokey or something like that. And then for her, we just kind of place it on. And remember it, or if you remember, that I'm always looking to see how her head responds when I take it off and put it on and flop it on and stuff like that. How does she feel? Does her head go up? Does she get concerned? Does she get more rigid? And so we're looking for all these things. So I'm just going to kind of adjust that a little bit and place that there. And as you can see, she generally doesn't care. So let's move on to the saddle. A little quick thing, and I know this is going to be a bit of a long video if I haven't said that already, so hopefully you guys have a coffee. But I want to go over all the things that I've done and just sort of cover everything. But I never tie my horses, and you can, this isn't a how-to or, everything. It's just how I do things, and if you kind of like it, if you think there's anything good in here you can use it. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just telling you everything I've done with her. I don't tie my horses. I keep them connected to me. So if there's any trouble or if they want to wander off, I'm quick to respond, and they know that they're kind of connected to me and not connected to a fence or some kind of thing. Right? You're just with me. And so I think it works out really well, especially if there's any trouble. And so she also doesn't feel trapped, kind of thing. Okay, so let's chuck the saddle on. Now I've done quite a bit of saddle chucking on her. And hey, come over here. You have to be in frame a little bit. And this is what's important when it comes to having that rope, where I can just say, can you please go back to where you were? Because it's, it's vital in this case. So I'm just going to take this. It's not very heavy. I'm just going to take it and just chuck it on top, right? And so if you can see that her head went ever so slightly up, that bothers me. So I'm going to ask for down. I'm going to say, it's okay. You can chill out back in that sort of straight line that she was before. And then I'll take this. Never wrap it around your arm. If anybody's never told you that, if you've got too much rope, just have it a nice loop like that. That'll work out just fine. Okay, it's time to make some adjustments. And let's see, where would be best for all of this for you to see? Let's have her turn. So I'm just going to ask her butt to move over. Sort of surprise you there. Yeah, there you go. And we can watch a little bit her reaction, because how she reacts or how she feels is a little bit more important than me. So when I'm going to mess around with this, I want to be able to kind of feel and understand what she's thinking about. Is she looking around at me? Is she moving? I'll ask her to back up. There, just go back to where you were. And that's important. This little bit of groundwork that we get over there. When we're with them, when we're doing anything with them, would you stop leaning into me? Thanks. It's vital. So I'm just going to drop the girth off the other side. I already know that she doesn't really worry because I've done this how many times now? Quite a lot. Okay, so with this getting a little bit more organized, I'm going to bunch up I tend to bunch the saddle pad up into the gullet of the saddle, because when we kind of pinch that saddle down, we don't want the saddle pad to squish down and be hard on there. So I'm kind of conscious about that. I have her come step back up. Step up, come on. You silly monkey. Okay, so that's good. I'm gonna grab the girth like so. Check out that tummy. She likes a good tummy rubbins. So a good tummy rubbins is always nice to do before we put a girth on. And sometimes horses will wander just a bit, as you can see there. And I don't mind. I know some people, I told you to stand still. I don't mind too much because I get a lot of opportunities to just come on back. And I can do a little bit of groundwork at the same time. So I'm just gonna put on the other strap. Get that tight enough that it's not going to move for a second. And like I said, I really don't get too concerned about horses that want to move a little bit. It really is, I can't stress enough, because this is in my hands and it's not tied to a fence or cross ties or nothing, they kind of get that opportunity to chitty chat, and then I get an opportunity to chitty chat back, where I say, no, stay with me. And they say, what? And you say, stay with me. And they say, okay. Or they say no, and then you try to figure out, well, don't mess with the barrel in the camera. Back up. So there's another little bit where I get to ask her to back up. So I get to teach her, when I place sort of pressure like this, it means back up. And then I get to work on my response and my timing. And then I get to say thank you, and I get to give hugs and everything, and all works out really, really well. It's constant communication. Why are you leaning into me? Go this way for a second. You're kind of out of frame. Not forward. Okay. And sometimes this sort of playful feeling or attitude, I think, works out really, really well with horses. You really don't have to be, in fact, I encourage you not to be rigid. Be very flexible and understand that horses have their own sort of thoughts and a bit of variability, and you can just continue to try to communicate. Hello, thanks for coming back. See, again, we just get to say thank you. We get to communicate a little back and forth about what we'd like, and they get to communicate a little back and forth about what they'd like. And during this time, because I don't tie up my girth really tight on the first go, I usually give it a few tries. I kind of see, well, you know, how's it fitting there, and how's it fitting up here, and does it move much, and how do you feel about it all? And then we check it out again, and can it go up one more? I don't know, we'll probably leave it there, right? Back up, please. Don't come forward, back up. So this is a different method. There you go. Thanks. And, you know, you just continuously get to mess with your horse. Okay, so we're gonna put some reins on as well before we do anything any further, because we have to think a little bit about it psychologically for the horse. Horses are pretty sensitive creatures like us, and you know, the more things that we sort of have on us, the more we get a little sidetracked. Like if you're carrying a suitcase and you have a bag and you have a backpack, and then your phone rings and you got to hold that somehow, and you know, your belt is a little loose and maybe your pants are starting to fall down a bit or something like that, or your you know, inside of your shoe, your sock is kind of a little loose and your shoelace comes untied, and you know, there's all kinds of things like that where the more stuff we put on them, the more they sort of have a think about what on earth is touching me, and why is it touching me, and where is it going, and is it falling off, and is it going to fall off? And so when we're training, we don't put all this stuff on at once, or at least I don't. Maybe others do, and but I don't. And I'll start obviously with just the halter, and then we'll move up to something that goes on her back, like a little blanket or something like that, or a saddle pad, and then move up to proper pad and saddle and put that on. And then finally we can graduate to having these reins on. And I start all of my horses simply with a halter. In fact, I start all of my horses without even reins, but she's sort of graduated to that level now where we can play with reins a little bit more. And she's great so far. Okay, let's just quickly do this. Yeah, I know, there it is. It's all done now. We don't have to mess with your girth anymore. Hello. Now, sometimes when horses come and check out what on earth you're up to, some of them seem a little grumpy sometimes. I really encourage you to sort of meet them and greet them and say, I'm really sorry that's bothering you. Can we just check back over here? There's a lot of reactions, you know, when you're doing up the girth and they come over and they want to go, yum. You better not be thinking about rolling. And, you know, you kind of get out of here. But, you know, when you're messing with these things and you don't want them to get kind of girthy, well, the best thing to do is just say, look, I hear your point. I'm sorry that it bothers you. This is life, you know, you're a horse and this is a domesticated life. That's how it goes. Okay, so that is a saddling procedure. These are some of the things that I think about when I think about where these reins are. Are they laying on her neck? If I put it up on the saddles, it's only going to touch her shoulders. Some horses get very bothered when you kind of come down and things are kind of bump, 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 bump. So acclimation to that is vital before even bothering with any kind of riding with them on. So we would then move on to groundwork. So let's just shift the camera a little bit down the arena a bit here. I don't want to cut the camera very much. If I can help it, I want you guys to be able to see a completely sort of uncut video of things that I think about. So I'm having her lead out with me right now. And now I'm going to send her on a bit of a circle or a drive. Can you please, I know we haven't done this in a little bit, but can you please move on? Yeah, thanks. Let's go. And I would do a lot of this kind of stuff. Now we haven't done this for a bit because we haven't needed to, but I would do a lot of this stuff from the get-go with everything on. I want her to walk nicely. I want us to be able to walk in rhythm and to be synchronized. So I can go around the barrel, send her a little more. Now the barrel kind of came between us. So she figured she could stop. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm going to try to match up a little bit with her, and she's going to try to match up a little bit with me. I got ahead of her a bit because she was slow. So I send her forward. 2, 4, 5, 6. And we'll turn. So I want to make sure I have a turn, which some people refer to as a hind end disengagement. And some people call it a hind end engagement because we engage it to move while the front end stops. So that is a good left hand turn. We'll come up towards the camera a little bit more for everybody. So that would be really good. I would want that for when I want to turn, I guess you could say. Or even stop. We want to disengage or engage, whatever we want to call it. We want only the hind end to move and the front end to stop. Usually that's going to mean stop or turn hard, one or the other. So once we've gone one direction, I want her to be able to go the other. I'm going to ask her to get going. There's the nose. Here's a bit of drive because, come on. So I'm going to provide a little energy, a little kind of drive, a little lack of desire to want to be around me. I'm going to continue to reinforce the rope means something. Come on. So I might have a little bit of whistle in there, a little bit of kind of undesire. Now you can see how she's pretty pokey. Pokey is fine, slow is fine. I'm okay with that. We're going to try to match up. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, if you notice where my position of my body is, my eyes are a little bit forward. I'm essentially riding. Can you come back this way, please? Go. Yeah. Get going. Come on. Okay, so here I might say, let's go. And if I am going to use my rope with a horse to have them move, because right now this is our only tool we have. We could use a flag, we could whistle or whatever. But if I'm ever going to use drive, if I'm ever going to use a rope on a horse, I try not to have it go overhand unless I'm going to have it hit the saddle or saddle pad. Now I don't tend to do that an awful lot because it gets horses worried because essentially it's a bit of an attack maneuver. So what I'm trying to do is use the tail end of my rope kind of like a tail does, or the horse does with their tail. But if I was going to kind of come up and bother one, I might come up into the belly. I know, you got yourself all worried and everything, but you have nothing to worry about. if you do end up worrying them, if you do end up getting them really concerned because you're kind of going like this and it's really, really, really scary for them. So we've done a lot of this. This is why, one of the reasons why she doesn't move, because I've sort of switched out having this mean something to having it mean nothing and to not be very concerned. So I want her to come towards me. So I'll pull a little. Thanks. You made it. It's good. Because if we've done something that kind of puts a bit of worry or concern or fear into them, then we want to kind of take it back out. So I might just stand here and just kind of swing this thing around. She might get a little worried and I'll say, you know what, you can just stay with me. If you get coordinated enough, it's really quite a handy activity to be able to do. Right? So I don't want her afraid of this. Is not, but I do want her concerned. Like, you know, if a horse has a tail and they kind of do like that, then anybody who's been around horses will know the next thing that comes is a kick. And then you're in trouble. So we don't want any of that. All right. Now, so if I needed her to go, if I needed her to get going, then I'll probably do a little bit of roping. Roping, like a bit of action with the rope. And it'll usually be an underhand. If it happened to be an overhand, it's only going to get on that saddle or saddle pad, and that'll be just fine. And in time, I'll get her a little less worried about stuff like that, but I just don't need to because I'm not going to use it anyways. Unless she's incredibly pokey. But actually, I did want to cover, sometimes when you get a horse to get moving, so I'll ask her to go. Oh, I'm a little twisted, hang on. So we'll ask her to go. I want the nose the other way. So I'll give a little drive. I'll be like, you need to go. So I might get active with my rope a little. And pokey is fine, right? Just kind of slow and la-di-da. Because I'm going slow. And my eyes are more down towards the ground. If I wanted to go a little faster, I might look up. Might be, well, we need to go. But if not, if my eyes are kind of low and I'm feeling kind of low energy, come on, little one, let's go. Go on. Go. I mean it. Thank you. Around the barrel. Keep going, please. Go straight. Block that eye if you can. I can't. She's a little quick and worried, so I'll turn and I'll ask her to head the other way. A little bit of action there, a little bit of action, but I'm looking down because I want slow. There we go. Okay, let's go. Come on. Okay, so because my rope is ineffective, I'm just gonna tap, tap, tap. Can you imagine? So this is where I would get a little worried. For some reason, she says, I don't want to go. So I'm just going to persist. But it's not really any different than if I was going to use my legs a little bit to ask her to go. So I'm just going to wait until she travels on. Can you move, please? Come on, let's go. Okay, I'm gonna hit the ground. That'll do it. And then back up to bump, bump, there we go. Because we're going to end up bumping in the next step anyways, this is what I've done. So we've moved on beyond this stuff. This doesn't make a lot of sense anymore in where we're at. So that would be my forward motion from the ground. My position is generally going to be in a place that is somewhat parallel to me being here, which is the next step that she kind of gone on. So if I'm here and I want her to go and I've got my stirrups, I might say, let's go. So same ground maneuver. I might just bump, bump, bump. She's pretty pokey on this side. So I'll just ask a little bit more and I'm just bumping lightly. It's not a big bump. I might say, can we please go? Please, I don't need you to sniff my hand, just get walking. And I'll sort of hold out a little bit like I'm doing groundwork and see if she goes. Now she may or may not go because honestly, we haven't had to do this for a little bit now. Can you please go? Thanks. So a little bit of foot movement and then I'll stop. Now, I'm kind of thinking, because we're doing this pretty much, this is unset, you know, all this stuff is, I didn't practice before I came out here. You guys get to see sort of a bit of a training situation. So I might say, okay, you need to go, and I'll kind of be up and moving, and then I'll say bump, 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 right? And we'll just give a little bump, bump. No different than when if I was sitting in this saddle. Say, let's go. I know. It's pretty light. It's there's nothing metal on here. There's nothing that's really poking her. It's just more of a tedious kind of thump, thump, thump in a way that you could tolerate. I mean, okay, somewhere in there the camera dropped off. Hopefully it stays on this time. But we were in the middle of doing our little bumpy bumpies and sort of talking about being able to ride from the ground like this. And when we give a little bump, so ask for a forward movement. Come on, silly. Thank you. We want to be able to kind of get here. Okay, come back to me. Good. Okay, we're going to head down the arena a little bit, and hopefully this will be obvious. So I'll give a bump, and then I want to be up here. And we'll match our feet as best as we can. 2, 3, 4. And off we go. Now she's a little quick, so I'm going to draw her back and come back up the arena. In fact, we might as well ride from the ground up the arena. So I'll ask her to kind of go forward, say let's go, and I'll sort of pick up a bit, and then a little bump. It's just light. And I'll get ready to ride. Bump. 2. Okay. And this takes a little practice for everybody. She's a little worried too. And that's okay, because we haven't done this in a little bit. Now I just kind of ride. There. So that's good. Actually, let's fill some gaps. Just have her turn a little left. Oh, we stopped. So I can actually use my body as well. I can bump with my body instead of taking my hand down. And I want her to come left, so I've got my left hand out. There we go. There we go. There we go. You can go over the bridge if you want to. So I might hit with my hip a little bit. Bump, up over the bridge. Bump. Hang a left a little bit. And now we can go straight up to the camera. So from the ground, the only way to go right is we sort of have to block the eye. So you can put a hand out and raise it up. But think about all the contact points that we're getting to here. So now she's quite chill about it. I'm just going to raise my hand down. Oh, we stopped. A bump. And a little more. Block the eye. Bump. Now, because we have reins on, we don't actually have to block the eye, but that's generally how I start, and I will not have those reins on. But if we do have the reins on, well, then we can start to practice a little bit like this. Let's get a little bit more of that rein. So if I wanted to go forward, hello, okay, head forward, please. There. So I bump with the hip, because it's going to hit the stirrup a little, and I might, actually we've got to come left. So I'll come left, using the lead rope right now. So bump, a little forward, a little left, bump. For side passing. I'm actually having a little bit of trouble with her. So I'm just going to keep on working this out a little bit. She should just walk, but she's not. There we go. It's slow. Okay, so now that she's kind of come there, I want to use my left or my right hand to steer her to the left. And bump. So she's got to keep an eye on both me on this side and my hand on the other side, which can be a little bit of a struggle. There we go. There's straight. Oh, there we go. And I'm looking low because I want her to go slow and not get too worried. So there I gave a little right turn. So let's go forward. Let's go forward. Now hold there and forward. No different than I would, because I want to make it back to the camera if I can. So bump, bump, there. A little more, actually, I'd like a little more right there. Something like that. And I know it may seem kind of awkward, but that's just how I do it. And you don't have to. This can be like, oh, that looks really tedious. But the progress that I make, because I'm reaching so many contact points. I've got my body on, the saddle's on, the reins are on. I've got my lead rope here. I'm sort of bumping on the side with my hip, and this thing, my hand over here is doing something. All of these things sort of acclimate them to the idea that they can kind of be, you know, touched and you can kind of be around and they won't get too worried about it. In the end, in the beginning they will, but in the end, I mean, it's just leaps and bounds. They'll kind of really come through. So that's how I start, and I do that on both sides. I want to make sure that this side also has got some kind of, you know, good movement to it. So you can also be up here on this side, and you can actually just have the reins. I could not use my lead rope instead of my reins, kind of idea, and steer. And so I might say, let's go. I give a little bump, bump. And she says, yeah, I know what that means. Okay, so we'll come to the right. So I just have a little right rein there and let that left one go. And off we go. Oh, come on. A little more bump, bump. And we're going. Okay, I'm going to turn right. My whole body's going to kind of shift with me. Little bump, bump. She says, I don't want to go back up the arena. I want to go down the arena. So there's a lot of draw at the back of the arena for whatever. There. This slow. And I want her to come back up straightish. So I've got a little tension on the left side that I want her to pay attention to. We got a lot of wind today, don't we? A lot of wind. So bump, 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 bump. Bump, 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 bump. And I'm trying to match up my feet with hers, if you can see that, so that we kind of go together. Now, she hasn't made it back up to the camera, which is okay. We're going to come around for another round. All right. 4, 5, come on. Now, you can use vocal cues. You can cluck or whistle or say walk or whatever. But I'm just going to kind of keep quiet in that regard. There. 2, 3. Let's go. 4, 5. And it's all good practice for your goes and your stops and your turns. Because the more she kind of doesn't get it, the more you just get to reinforce the bits and pieces. I can't believe how rusty we are. We really should have been practicing this before we got onto camera. She'd like to turn and go back, so I'm just going to kind of hold left and ask her to turn left. And she may or may not. Not just a bump, bump. I want her to go left. You know, and it's hard. It's not easy for them because they sort of have to pay attention to something that's sort of pulling their face one way and you being on the wrong side. That's good. Just stop there. You don't have to move your bum. Tedious, but well worth it. Move your bum over. Thanks. Okay. And then from there, I would ride. Now, I think I need to do a little bit more. Even though we actually have ridden today, I feel like I've left some gaps. So all that stuff you've just seen, I'm going to do until she gets much quieter. Now, it could be that it's actually quite windy. I don't know if those trees, but those trees are waving around a lot. So it might just be more there, but you know, something's not quite there. So I want to make sure that that's solid before I would even bother hopping on. So I'm probably going to do more of that, and we'll pick up this video either later or tomorrow, where I talk about the riding aspect. And the riding aspect looks almost exactly like when I'm on the ground. So, you know, if I'm asking for a go, I'll just keep kind of bumping until we get a go. I'm going to ask for left-hand turns. I'm going to ask for right-hand turns. I'm going to ask for stop and backups. Backups are no different. We pull on the reins and she should go backwards. She should just wander backwards. And it'll just be one little step at a time, and it'll be quiet. And everything will look a lot like this, if that makes any sense. So I expect this video has gone on longer, a little longer than I wanted it to go. I thought we would be riding because we already did a short ride today and it was fantastic. But this groundwork stuff has some gaps in it. And so maybe this is actually just a really good video to show that just because you've done something, I've done something, doesn't mean that everything is stuck if I've left it alone for a little bit. So this kind of thing I want to cover. None of it has really shown me that she's really scared or worried. I could probably just ride her right now. I don't think it would be a big issue, but I want to clear those gaps first because I didn't realize that they were in there until I messed around just now to try to give you guys an indication on what on earth she is up to. But she's very calm. She doesn't have a lot of trouble in her. We're still good friends, and for whatever that's worth, friends as in neither of us hurt each other. Neither of us cause each other any danger. And that is what I would think is not a bad friendship at all between human and horse. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Hopefully some of that translates to the groundwork that we do. We always want it to translate into the saddle. So if I'm kind of quiet here, again, I want to be here and then I want to be like, okay, I want to get going. So just like when you sort of sit up in a saddle and you're like, I want to go right there. Then you go. And if the horse is like, I'm not paying any attention to you, she's got a little attention to me. But if I say, can we get going, please? That should be about as much as it takes. And that's kind of where I thought we were at the beginning of this video. But we weren't. No, we weren't. We were in a different spot, weren't we? But that's okay. All right, well, we'll cover the next bit in a part 2, perhaps. This has been quite long. But that's what I want. That's how I want to start all my horses that I ever start. I want to be able to be, whether I'm far away in the saddle position, facing the saddle way, the riding way, or I'm really close. Why are you so worried? Did I come up too quickly? Can I have your attention, please? I do have my child jumping on a trampoline, so she's got her mind on that. But I might do that again. I might sidle on up. And I might say, that's okay. You don't have to worry when I come up quickly. There's a blink. It's a little bit better. So things I need to work on, little gaps that I believe that I've left in. And that's not cool. I don't want that. So yeah, now it makes me think like, where are you going? She's probably thirsty. So I'm going to lead her over to get some water here. Oh, everybody's jumping. See, something's happening. So windy days are harder days to train on, but I think that they're fantastic practice to get your horse to kind of pay attention to you. So that's it for now. And I'll see you guys in part 2, where we talk a little bit more about riding, and I'll hopefully have filled in all the gaps. And I won't be doing anything different than what you saw. I'll just be waiting for a different response, a quieter horse, one that isn't worried. So that's it. Till next time.